Okay. How are we doing there, Josh? Is everybody inside? All right. I'm going to do gallery view over here so I can see all my beloved friends. There you are. Oh my gosh, look at you. Oh, how fabulous. Yeah. Hello, Kala. Yes, hi, over there in the Big Island. Marvelous. Ayana, Graciela, Rita. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, how beautiful. So once again, we are able to globally gather in this most interesting technology. And the days are fascinating as usual from one moment to the next. We really have no idea what's going to happen. There appears to be some form of continuity, and yet in the blink of an eye, suddenly everything changes. So, what do we have to do with this? How are we going to deal with this? And what is the message? What can I offer you today to see if we can spark something, some word that sort of gives you a slightly different perspective on things, a little tool that perhaps will make it more possible, more to make you more capable of utilizing this incredible opportunity that we have of this unfolding moment. That is my goal today. That is my wish for us in this hour that we can spend together. So a couple of cautions. My internet has been going in and out all morning. So if things disappear, Miri and Josh are there to fill in, and there are all kinds of fun things you can do until I come back in again, because it doesn't seem to be lasting, but it is happening. So we'll see how we proceed today in this adventure, this momentary adventure. And the other thing that I really wanted to bring to your attention is today is new moon. Now, over the years and all of my various associations with different cultures, I have certainly been invited to examine and to take note of the effect that our celestial bodies have on our territorial body, or our physical body, our environment. So the moon has a very strong effect on us, even if we don't play with all of the psychological, spiritual implications. It's easy enough to see when the tides come in and the tides go out, and the relationship of the moon to all of that. But what I have personally observed, and of course this is due to pointing out from different teachers and different traditions, is that during the time of the full moon, that our body mind, because we are predominantly water, our body mind is very much influenced by the pull of the moon, the relationship of the moon's energy. And as the moon is coming into fullness, she has more of a presence in our experience. And so the full moon is a time when the blood is moving more strongly. Everything is moving. And because of this, we can enlist this movement, and we can use it to create experience. And this causes us, in the Tibetan tradition, they will say, well, make sure to do practice during the full moon, because the energy is multiplied. It's because everything is moving faster, and there is a stronger pull, a stronger relationship to this psychological presence of the moon. Well, today is new moon. This is the time when especially the Hindu meditators that I studied with really valued the new moon, the day just before the moon starts to wax. All right, so the waning moon, when the moon gets less and less of a pull on us, the mind has more of an opportunity. Things are not moving so fast, and the mind has more of an opportunity to settle. So during this particular period, it is a good time to not worry about accomplishment, because things are moving slower than normal, than we anticipate. And because of that, rather than placing our energy on the idea of accomplishment, we should place our focus on relaxation, on opening and presence, without worrying about accomplishment. People very often get very frustrated during new moon time because they feel, where's the energy? I don't have any energy. All I want to do is lay down. All I want to do is rest. Yeah, that's right. And that's good. It's okay. It's necessary. We are not one thing. This is a theme that I will probably touch on a few times in this sharing with all of you, is that although there is a stream of continuity, but there are many streams of continuity interacting. And because of this, we cannot predict what our moment by moment experience is going to be. We are living in a time now that we could say, well, this is a time of great uncertainty. Yes and no. Every moment, actually, is a time of great uncertainty. And if we do not affirm this consistently, we're going to be caught off guard. All of a sudden, everything shifts. I call it tilt. All of a sudden, the machine tilts, everything's different. And then we say, well, where's the continuity? I want things to be this constant stream that I can rely on. Well, good luck. That's you're setting yourself up for a lot of misery should you cling to that idea, because nothing can be relied upon to be consistent. It's very seductive, though, because one moment follows another, and it sure looks like there's a degree of consistency going on. And it could be going on for a while, but definitely at some point, in very small, subtle ways, things are changing. So the message in this particular activity, the message is to really get as flexible as possible, to take a look at your own mind, your own attitudes, your behavior, and see where are you resisting the flow of life? Where are you refusing, or it's not even refusing, it's like getting irritated. Oh, why is this virus happening? Why can't I go outside? Why can't I be with my family? Why can't I dance Tara in a circle? Why, etc., etc. All of the conditions that present themselves, rather than resisting them and developing a whole set of behaviors that is going to sap our vitality, that is going to damage our immune system, because every point of resistance requires tremendous energy. So if you want to know where your energy is going, what are you resisting? What are you saying, I don't want to deal with this? Because as soon as you say that, you have just locked yourself in a box. I don't want to deal with this. Okay, good luck, because you have to deal with this. So rather, we must get in the habit of understanding habits, the habits that do not serve us. we need to get in the habit of disarming them, of taking them apart, of penetrating them, of reclaiming their energy, and of orienting our attention in the direction of wholesomeness. Because if we do that, we retain the vitality that we gather through our practices, and we generate more energy. When we do that, the point of awareness we call wisdom, the awareness of interconnectedness, becomes clearer and clearer. When those two things happen, the heart opens. If we pay attention, if we really look and affirm these qualities, then most definitely we are going to continue to move into the direction of awakened mind. Now, one of the questions, I have a few little questions here. Come on, ladies, you can, give me your questions. I need help here. It's so much easier when I have your words so I can see where your points of resistance are. Don't be embarrassed. In fact, you don't have to sign your name if you send a question. Don't be embarrassed. Our questions are our points of communication. My job, as I see it, is to develop the clearest communication of the various methods that I have engaged in and studied that will assist us in awakening the capacity of our body-mind. Because words and these concepts that I'm sharing are vital for our awakening. They stimulate us in very specific ways. If they don't stimulate you, then we are not communicating. I'm holding the clearest vision that I can of these experiences, but that's coming from me, and I can only speak to you in my personal Prema language, which very well may not be something you understand. And I'm not talking English. I'm talking experience and the way I shape my thought in order to give it the capacity to transmit to you. So I'm doing this, and it's not for my own health. Although I admit, as I am speaking to you, I'm listening as well, because it's coming, my desire to give you any kind of gift of this form of stimulation is so strong that it pulls me into a deeper place than where I usually hang out. So I find this is quite stimulating. I find it really wonderful. You are stimulating me you are inviting me by this arrangement of Zooming and all of these beautiful friends that I love so much, phases. It invites me to open in a deeper way to myself. So this is quite thrilling and very provocative and very inspiring. What is it we are doing here? What as I continue with my various and sundry studies and playing with the flowers and the cats and the rain and my beautiful caretakers and my beautiful students and my beautiful friends, as I wander through this amazing experience of being alive in a human body, why? What is it that I have to do here? What are the themes that I need to replay so that I can make the most of this experience? So once again, I was burbling along with the neuroscientists and Joe, and reminding me that our journey is, in order to dwell in the utmost wholeness of body-mind and of being able to utilize the capacity of body-mind, we need to engage. A certain amount of our time, we need to relax. We need to be playful. We need to laugh. We need to be open. We need to develop friendships. We need to rest in our heart. We need to do all of these sweet, kind things. But the other thing that we need to do is pay attention and really examine to see what are the points that are holding us back, and how do we disarm these clouds that move through our psyche in a way that causes us to grasp onto negativity and to cultivate negativity. And we do this again and again, and we are not aware of the fact that we're doing it. We are not aware of the way from moment to moment the mind is flashing all of the, what do they call it, the genes, all of the billions of radiant genes, all the billions of molecules of which we are made, flashing on and off 360 times a second, and each one of them is moving according to a pattern from the past, but it is influenced by our awakened conscious mind. So what do we do about that? How do we deal with, when it moves towards disconnectedness, when it moves towards the dark aspects, then we lose vitality. When we move towards interconnectedness, then we gain vitality. So we really want to pay attention. What are we thinking? How are we thinking? What practices? Now this is where the different meditative practices that we are invited to do. Now there's a whole lineage of practice in Tara Dhatu. And all of these practices, they were transmitted for thousands of years, yogis and meditators who have been able to overcome their negative tendencies to the degree that they accumulated enough vitality to see into different dimensions of consciousness. And they have, with great joy, put together these practices, transmitted these practices. When they had students coming to them that said, "How did you do it?" they told them. And that has been passed down to us. So our work comes from a number of different directions, but specifically from these great yogis and yoginis who have engaged with this very same situation, this practice of trying to make sense of the life on this planet. But we also have the present moment of inspiration. Now, many of you have been wandering around, just like myself, wandering around not only the internet, but books and workshops, and we have encountered all different ways in which we have felt inspired. And this is the other aspect. There's that which comes from the past, but there's also the revelation of the present moment, because we are all together using the power of awakened minds as we can relate to it, however we can relate to it, to be able to awaken each other and awaken ourselves. And so in the moment, we are inspired. In the moment, right now, this moment, each one of us is receiving some degree of inspiration. Something is going off in us. It's very often very fleeting. We get an image and then it's gone, and that's fine. Or we get a word, we write it down. Maybe in another half an hour, that word doesn't mean anything. On the other hand, that word may be the one that keeps us moving into awakened mind. One of the questions, the first question that I want to address that has a lot to do with this comes from Judith. Is Judith here, Miri? Have you seen her?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, because I'm going to look and see if I can find her, because I've got 3 screens here. I wish I could, there, okay, Judith, wave. Yeah, this is great. Okay, very good. The question was, okay, so Maya or Miri, you can read it in Portuguese if you want, but here's the English.
Maya will read. She received, I sent to her. She has.
Okay, great, thanks. Since the ultimate meaning of our life is to achieve union with our nature, our fundamental nature. Sogo Rinpoche quotes the Buddha, who says, of all the Buddhas who had attained enlightenment, none got there without trusting a master. Of all the 1,000 Buddhas that will come in this age, none of them will reach enlightenment without trusting a master. How to choose, follow a master if there are so many beauties, pearls, and different teachings. Okay, so this is Prema talking. And we have to, it's not my teachers. This is Prema talking from Prema experience, okay? I don't think that Shakyamuni Buddha said that, and I would like to see really where he got that from. Because Shakyamuni, the most important thing that he said was, don't believe anything I say because I say it. You only believe what you personally experience. Okay? So if I look at that and I try to put this next to what Sogyal Rinpoche said, that doesn't go together for me. It doesn't work for me. And it's not my personal experience. Now, I have had the privilege of meeting great masters and great yoginis. And I can say that they have inspired me. They have definitely opened different realms of experience, different dimensions of experience. So I really encourage everyone, especially all of my students, that if you are attracted to some masterful presentation of I even hesitate to call it the Dharma, of the truth, of the spiritual path, well, go check it out. I also, something that the Tibetans say, again, it's, that I do agree with, is before you take on an intimate relationship, and I don't mean sex, but before you really feel safe in completely opening yourself to a spiritual teacher, examine the teacher and examine the teachings. Don't just swallow it. Really check them out. And if there's something that's going on that seems strange, talk about it. It's very important. The level that he's talking about, it's really important that you have a personal relationship. It's not just sitting in a group of 100 people and taking teachings. That's not a personal relationship. A personal relationship is one-to-one, and you talk about what your questions are. What are your doubts? What is challenging you? Because this is the point of your growth. This is really, you want to explore this with somebody who has some experience. Absolutely, it'd be very, very helpful. And what Sogyal Rinpoche is talking about, yes, there are great masters that when you sit in their presence, they can take you to an experience of awakened mind, but they can't give it to you. You have to develop it yourself. They can give you an experience. They can point the direction. It's another piece of Tibetan Buddhism I love. They call it the pointing out instructions. This is fantastic. I mean, perfect words, pointing out. And because all of spiritual practice, all spiritual transmission is pointing out. We can point to the moon, but we cannot tell you what the experience of the moon is. You have to look at it. You have to figure it out. It's what it is for yourself. We can point to an apple. We can even say it's sweet, but it's meaningless until you taste it. So, yes, these great beings, but you know, I haven't had this experience not only with Tibetan masters, but also with some of my Hindu teachers. Just really amazing, the dimensions of consciousness that they opened from my experience. So, and I absolutely know that it's not a matter of, there's no confinement. When I read this, I think, oh, no, 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 not another box. Not another box with another door that we can't find. This doesn't work. It's, no, remember, this is Prema talking, so you take it how you want. But I would say that to say something like this, all the Buddhas got there without trusting a master. Can't, sorry. I don't subscribe to that. There's lineage, definitely. There's pointing out, definitely. But our capacity is so vast. And it opens, it, you know, especially if you're cruising around the internet, I'm sure that you notice there are all kinds of people who have so much to share. You wonder, where did they get this experience? Where did this come from? And if you explore this, if you take a look at it, you discover that it comes, I mean, there are some people that, you know, they're having a meal, and the next thing you know, they're in another dimension of consciousness. They're having an experience, an out-of-body experience. So it can happen at any moment. One of my favorite stories, which those of you who've been around me have heard me say again and again, because I love this story, because this is an answer as far as I'm concerned. There was an old yogi, and this old cranky yogi had a young acolyte, you know, a young, it's beyond students, like a servant, you know, but he was a monk. And he's, you know, he served this old cranky yogi. They were both in Tibetan robes, but, you know, they lived in the mountains. And the young monk was constantly saying, constantly asking, show me the nature of mind. Show me the nature of mind. Show me what this, here, what is the word that was used here of fundamental, the fundamental nature. Show me the fundamental. Anyway, Rigpa, Dharma Dhatu, all of these wonderful words about ultimate mind. Show me, show me. And the old yogi would go, you know, yeah, sure, sometime I'll show you. You're right. No, you know, so you just sort of swat him away, like, you know, go get the wood for the fire, or go get some water for tea, or go, you know. So, and this went on. This went on for a lot of years. And then one day, the old yogi, who realized his time was short, he said, okay, you know, we're going to go to the top of the mountain and do a whole thing tonight. So the young man gets all the supplies together, and, you know, he's the pack horse, and he hauls the stuff up the mountain, and the old yogi gets on. They get up there, and they get all set up, and they're sitting there, and there are clouds, and then the clouds clear, and there's the stars. And then the yogi says, dog barking. And those words, with that experience, the young man entered the awakened state. So did you for a moment. Your mind completely stopped waiting for me before I said what was coming next. It stopped right then, too. A Zen koan, you know, we're One hand clapping, right? This is the most common one in the Western world. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Did you get it? You have to be willing to let go of conceptuality. And we are so oriented towards concept and the concepts of our lives and the concepts of our personas and the concepts of our relationships and the concepts of our world that is, you know, floating in whatever virus or whatever the hell is going on. Concept. Okay, nothing wrong with it as long as we recognize that that's what it is. As long as we recognize that it is an endless presentation of concept. If we want to step away from this into another dimension of consciousness, there is no way we can force it. We can only prepare the mind. Now, the story of this yogi, I mean, I just think it's adorable, and the whole dog barking, and it makes the mind stop and everything, and that's really good. But the other piece of it is that this fellow prepared for that moment. Just like you prepare. There's a lot of preparation involved in you getting to this moment with me right now. You recognize it, you feel it in your bones. There is a shift that occurs in consciousness. And when the door opens, it's not even the door opens, it's like the walls suddenly, you recognize that they're not solid. You can see right through them. In fact, now they transformed themselves into beautiful plants, and now they've dissolved into rainbow light. Nothing solid here. Do we want to stay there? Not necessarily. It's not necessarily the goal. When I must say that for me, I found within my Tibetan Buddhist studies, I was constantly inspired by some of the ways that they reflect on reality, that they reflect on the ways they put it together are rather fascinating to me and functional, really very, very functional. So as we engage in different forms of practice, different aspects of our mind orient. So we talk about mind training. Now, this bounced me right back to Joe Dispenza, who I'm now reading his book, You Are the Placebo. I like the way Joe puts things because he's so intent on divorcing spiritual experience from culture. He's using the religion of science, although to him, science, you know, it's a prejudice that he has, but it's a cute one, because I think it helps us to break free of some cultural confinements that we have in relating spirituality to religion, to culture. And we get lost in the ritual. The goal of the ritual is not the ritual. We get lost a lot. You know, okay, we say these prayers, but the prayers are not the point. It's what the prayers are stimulating that is the point. So we have to be careful as we engage in examining the mind, because this, of course, he calls it mind examination. The Tibetans mind training. Mind training. What are we training? What are we saying with those words? We're saying that the mind is malleable. That just because it runs amok most of the time doesn't mean that we don't have the capacity to grab a hold of that energy and refine it. We have the perfect capacity to do that. That is our human inheritance. That is our precious human opportunity, that we have consciousness, that is capable of moving within different dimensions. And as I was saying, one of the aspects of the Tibetan presentation is they talk about 4 dimensions of consciousness, 4 kayas, right? There is the kaya of gravity and density. I have a body, it doesn't walk through the walls, it's the gravity of the earth holds me to the earth, so it's very, and I don't walk through people, so it looks like there are a lot of separate things interacting. Gravity and density. The dimension of light, sound, and vibration, recognizing that this body is not actually solid, but it is a mass of atoms appearing and disappearing very rapidly. It is electronic energy. And when the mind focuses in that way, when the mind focuses and understands that, then it is capable of moving through walls. It is capable of appearing all over the place. It is able to read minds. It is able to transmit vitality and energy with no resistance of gravity and density. That's the second dimension. The third dimension is the recognition that all of this is one taste. It is completely interconnected, one taste with infinite possibility, no beginning, no end. That is an experience that we are putting words to that cannot confine it. What is the fourth dimension? The integration of those 3. Now, why? Why do they put it together that way? Why? I know I've been hearing these teachings for, years and years and years. And experiencing them as prayers, experiencing them as various meditations and so forth. But my current preoccupation, you might say, although it's not that big a deal, but it's a point of reference, is to look at it and to see, okay, the goal is not just to recognize ultimate mind. It's not just to understand how to move within the realm of gravity and density. The goal is to be able to function completely in these various dimensions of consciousness whenever we choose, however we choose, and to always constantly be aware. In the 7 points of mind training, right from the beginning, the first thing we do is we start by examining the 4 thoughts that turn the mind. But then we go to ultimate bodhicitta. We recognize that ultimately it's all one taste. Ultimately, and we never take that out of the experience. So when something is arising, we have the capacity within the realm of the Dharmakaya, the Nirmanakaya, the gravity and density realm. We have the capacity to understand what furthers interconnectivity and what doesn't. That is our preoccupation. That's what we should think about in relation to everything that's going on. Doesn't matter if it's a virus, if it's climate change, if it's Black lives, if it's my grandkids are sick, if it's my neighbors are yelling at me, it doesn't matter. It is all arising according to causes and conditions and passing away very rapidly. And what do I have to do with that? That's where mind training comes in. That's where the absolute commitment to awakened mind, the absolute commitment to engender, to live a life of wisdom and compassion. The Hindus, also just sort of going back a little bit to this place of, what is the ultimate expression of awakened mind? In one of our studies recently, we were looking at the ordinary gods, the ordinary gods is how the Hindus call them. These are the beings that are in charge of the lightning and in charge of the wind and in charge of the fire and in charge, they're in charge of all the elements. And they are propitiated. According to Hindu practice, we have all different ways of making offerings and invoking them and getting them on our side. And, you know, there's a lot of that in all religions, is recognizing we are surrounded by all kinds of powers, all kinds of vitality, and that we want to have a good relationship with it. And in order to do that, we have to focus the mind in a specific way. So we want to give whatever it is that is going to cause all of these energies to participate with us in a wholesome way. There's all of that. But then, okay, so then what else is it that's one aspect. The other thing is to recognize it's all arising, everything according to causes and conditions. Somewhere in our infinite past, we created this virus, we created climate change, we created racism, we created war, we created nuclear weapons. Somewhere in our infinite past, we have together created this moment. So there is no judgment. There is no good girl, bad girl. There's no guilt. There's no assigning guilt. Now, this is mind training. This is when we get down to the nitty-gritties of the points of mind training. It's the recognition that everything arises together at the same moment. We are all 100% responsible for it. There is no guilt. There is just the moment. But where are we going to let it take us? It's if we let it, it can take us into bliss by simply recognizing all of it is arising. I open my heart. I meet the moment with infinite compassion, recognizing we are all in this together. And I maintain my open heart no matter what arises. There is the practice. There is the work that we have to do. And how to do it. This is why we have, I mean, by all means, someone else asked me, well, how do you feel about, you know, if I go to a psychiatrist or I go to a psychologist or, you know, isn't the Dharma enough? And I would say, well, whose Dharma? What Dharma? Dharma is everything that exists. It's a pattern, a way of being. So nobody owns the Dharma. Nobody owns it. And that's why for us, we need to examine, this is where words, we come back to where I started here. We need to examine and hold to our heart the words that stimulate us, that orient us towards our motivation. Why are we doing this? Where are we going? What are we trying to accomplish with this effort? Because mind training has a goal. The goal is to be able to dwell within the dimensions of consciousness that that's our human inheritance. It is our capacity, our possibility, our potential. So we are asking whatever activity we engage in, that we move towards this human potential of living a life of wisdom and compassion, which ultimately leads to infinite bliss, because there's no more resistance. Resistance is the spark that causes the suffering. Yeah, you can write that down. Oh boy, this was fun. Okay, let's see. I have a couple more little questions here. I want to make sure I get everybody's requests in, and then I'll give you a chance to ask some questions if you want. Okay, so Lori Ingram asks, I would like to know about the iconography of Dukkha. Okay, so let me go back here. So here she is, right behind me. Dukar. This is the 1,000 arms of white Tara. So she's got 11 heads, and in all of her 1,000 arms, she has weapons. She has a staff, and she has the Dharma wheel. So the 11 heads, the artist depicted them moving in one direction, but actually that's because she sees everything everywhere. And the 1,000 arms, she's got eyes in the palms of her hands. So she's completely capable. That's what these are. Yes, she's got the eyes somewhere in her hands here. That means she sees everything and knows everything. The weapons are that it takes thousands of various ways and means in order to master the power of our capacity, our mental capacity, to train the mind. Each one of us has its own variety of whatever the needs are. There is no one prescription for anybody. So the form of protection that she represents is her willingness to engage in whatever is going on. There is nothing too weird, too smelly, too disgusting, too unkind, too insane, where she will not enter in. This is the capacity of Mother Tara. This is one aspect of Mother Tara, that she will not enter in 100% to help you solve it and liberate yourself from whatever it is that holds you back from awakened mind. Now, when we work with these iconographic images, and so down here, she's standing on ignorance. This represents that she has the power of male and female. When there's a female deity holding a staff, it means that she has the masculine power as well as the feminine power. And wisdom, that's the Dharma wheel there, wisdom is the capacity to know. Everything arises out of wisdom, and then the staff is that sacred activity or the power of compassion. So those two things, that's wisdom and compassion. Where does the image come from? Well, good question, because we don't know where these images actually come from. Different people may claim them, but that doesn't mean that they were the first. The iconographic images somehow appear in our dream state, in the second dimension of consciousness that we discussed, light, sound, and vibration. And in this state, every aspect represents a way to stimulate consciousness so that we can orient ourselves in the direction of awakening. In order to accomplish awakening, we need vitality. We need to have what they call the 5 powers, which I'm going to elaborate more on when I start talking about the Dakinis. I'm going to do that soon. They've been pulling my ear here. So I will definitely get into some chatting about the Dakini soon. Because the 5 powers represent their capacity, the 5 wisdoms, right? So there are times when we need to calm down. There are times when we need to accumulate something, energy or material or whatever. There are times when we need to overwhelm, to grab a hold of the power of desire and to use it to awaken. There are times when we need to have the power of discipline, and there are times when we need to have the power of accomplishment. So this is the capacity that this being is entering into practice with us and helping us to generate whatever it is that we need, whatever aspect of consciousness that we need to develop. She's there to help us. So Lori, is Lori with us, Miri?
Yes.
Okay, so Lori, did that answer your question? Did you have any specific other question about her? I'm trying to, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
That gives me just sort of the general idea, because the image that I had, or that we have in the postcard, is kind of fuzzy, and I knew there were the 1,000 hands and the 1,000 eyes, but it's a lot different from green tar, and I couldn't tell what the 11 heads were. So that was pretty illuminating to realize that those were heads, as opposed to maybe that was the umbrella. I couldn't tell.
The umbrella's here. Here's the umbrella up here. Oh, I don't know. Is it off the screen there?
Yeah, it's off the screen. All
It's
right.
off the screen.
I'll
Okay,
look
but the umbrella's at the top of the tanka there. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I can get you up. Yeah.
There it is.
There we go. Yeah, see, it's right here.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it looks like the umbrella is on the staff. Yeah. So the staff, the masculine capacity of compassionate action is the protection of the umbrella. That's what the umbrella represents, is protection. Any other question about that, Lori? Are we good? Where is she? Oops. Okay, well, we're going to imagine that took care of that. Okay, and then, okay, well, I have a number of questions and we're getting towards the end. So I'd rather just open it up to you, darlings. Do any of you have any questions? If you do, wave your hand. And
I have
Joshua
4
will,
questions that have been lined up in the
unmute
chat
you.
panel since the beginning of the call almost. So if you'd like, I can read you those 4 questions and you can see if you feel like you've already touched on it. How does that sound?
Okay. Okay, so question number 1.
All right, let me scroll.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, let me scroll and see if I can find. There's Joshua. Okay.
Okay. How do we go with the flow when things are going on in our society that are harmful to people on the earth? You did kind of touch on that. So.
Yeah, I did touch on that.
Yeah.
So you keep your mind as open as you possibly can. You integrate all the dimensions of consciousness. You cultivate loving compassion, and you develop skill through skillful practices in relationship with people that you respect.
Beautiful. Okay, and Barbara Patton's question is, how can I help my friend while she struggles with end-of-life fear of death, and help myself also with this?
Right. Well, this is one of those preparations that one needs to make before we get to that point, which is to understand the impermanence of all things, the interconnectedness of all things, and the fact that letting go of this body is not letting go of awareness and consciousness. Now, it's not easy to prepare someone for this. This is a personal experience that you develop through examining the mind. If you examine mind and consciousness, death becomes more and more understandable. It's definitely one of the topics that is deeply and intensively cultivated in our practice. When we're doing studies, we spend a lot of time studying about death, how to approach death. Now, what I suggest, if there's someone who doesn't have any connection with the Dharma or doesn't have any experience in this way, that in your communication with them, you do your best, first of all, to get them to relax, just to relax, and to talk a little bit about the good times that you've had and how wonderful it's been, what you've been grateful for, what she's been grateful for in her life, and just breathe with this person, you know, get them to do the 9 healing breaths and then talk a little bit. And, but you want to really develop Ho'oponopono for both of you as best as you can. The forgiveness, the I'm sorry. So the asking for forgiveness, the giving of forgiveness, the gratitude for the good times that you've spent, and just let the heart open and breathe in love. So these are things that you can do. Now, you know, when we love our friends, our family, when we love, we never want to see our loved ones suffer. We want to do whatever we can, but we are not, what we have in our capacity, it doesn't seem like it's really helping. This is where you need to be able to cultivate the connection with your sources of refuge and pray to them. It doesn't matter if you put the refuge outside of yourself or inside of yourself, because what you're trying to do is penetrate deep mind. You're trying to allow yourself to penetrate deep mind so that the answer arises, that some kind of inspiration arises. So just ask with all sincerity in your own prayer time, what can I do? And you will be amazed at the inspiration that can arise from that simple activity of invoking your sources of refuge and asking for inspiration and guidance. Yeah. Okay.
All right. The next question is from Michelle Trenton asking, how can we help people around us that are not necessarily open-minded to listen to what we are trying to say to help them?
Yeah, that's a fancy one. And Michelle, it was really nice to see you with your students there. Let me see if I can find you. I thought it was quite adorable to see everybody all lined up there. Oh yeah, they are. That's waving, so cute. Yes, I'm so delighted that you all came to be with me. Wonderful. Yes, okay. So the answer is very similar to what I just said. You know, you have to pray for the means. I had a couple of relatives. One was a pagan who, you know, called herself a witch. And the other was a family member who was a fundamentalist Christian. And on a fundamental level, they loved each other. But of course, whenever they were together, it was lock horns. And so, you know, since I loved both of them and had no problems with either, they asked, you know, what to do. And so I said, when you're together, stimulate as much love as you possibly can. So in other words, stay away from any topic that's going to cause you to be judgmental about each other. Get away from the judgmental business and just stimulate the love. So if it's talking about your dog or your kids, or try to stay away from negative orientation. You know, if you're going to talk about the virus, talk about your ways of dealing with it so that nobody is hurt, or how to pray for people, or keep as positive as possible so that you establish a sensory field of warmth and loving kindness. Then, because of course this is going to come up, so you want to deal with it. You don't want to pretend that it's not there. You ask to set aside a period of time when you can talk about how do they feel about something and why do they feel that way, without judgment. One person gets 5 minutes, the other person gets 5 minutes. You're not judging each other, you're just talking about where you're at and why you're why you're there. And you do go back and forth with this a little bit and then drop it. That's what I recommend. Because, and, oh yes, the other piece of it is, never think that it's going to be over. Never think that you're going to resolve your differences. This is always going to be the state between you, and that's okay. That's okay. Let it be okay. Let it be rather exciting. In fact, you can even say in the times when you're not together, you know, see what you can find out about, you know, communicating so that we don't bug each other. There's all kinds of Christians who have explored the pagan path. There's all kinds of pagans who are Christian. So, you know, find some interesting stuff to share. But don't try to convince each other of anything, because you're never going to do it and you're only going to be frustrated. Stay in the love vibe. That's really, who cares what the other ones think? Stay in the love vibe. That's what I suggest anyway. And when we come to, you know, when it comes to people who are doing things that look harmful for the planet and for the culture and for the thing, you know, if you have the words to communicate about this and you can be effective, then that's wonderful. If you don't, then pray. Pray for them, pray for the world, pray for the environment, and recognize that, you know, even if everything falls apart and all the human beings on earth die, so what? This is an infinite turning over universe. We are living and dying and living and dying. That's what's happening here. So don't freak out about it. Don't get weird about it. The most important thing for us to do is stay in the heart of love. That the heart of love is going to inform us. It's going to inform our wisdom, and it is going to allow us to do our best with the people around us, to do our best. Don't ever expect that you're going to succeed in changing anybody's mind. What you can succeed in, though, is getting them to feel your loving kindness and your love and your loving support. That, and maybe you can't even do that, but it's going to really help you. How we doing, Josh?
Last question, and I'm pretty sure that you're going to have a similar answer to this one because they all kind of tie together there. But Flavia is asking, how can I deal with a student who is always resisting because, according to him, he can't learn and says that he's never had a good teacher in his life, including her? So.
Okay. Well, I would ask him, when he was born, was he able to talk? When I imagine he would say no, because who came out of their mom talking? So then the question is, how did you learn to talk? And so I would go simply through these various things that he absolutely knows, and you know that he knows, and ask him, how did he find out? Did he find out by watching other people, or how did he learn? How did he learn? And so I would recommend that she explore that and then just let it go. Then, you know, if he's absolutely convinced that this is where it is, just bless him and let it take him wherever it's going to take him. But you can point out that obviously somebody must have taught him something, and how did he learn? And if that's how he learned, then perhaps he could try it out with what she's presenting. And there we go. Woof! All right, that was fun. So anything else anybody wants to share, or any questions or anything further? I'm going to just pop along and look at everybody. So beautiful. Oh, Priya, did you have something you wanted to say? Okay, let me unmute you. Okay, go for it.
Aloha. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Prema. Love and blessings to you all. So wonderful to see you. So I'm reading this book. I'm halfway through it, and it is profound and perfect for the Tara dance circle. And I really, 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 really hope you all read it. It's just came out 2020, and it's by Valerie Kaur, and who's a Sikh from the Sikh tradition, and she discusses exactly what we're talking about, and it's called See No Stranger. I typed it up in the chat. A memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love. So, and she talks about it from a woman's, from the woman's position, and she's an activist, and I cried many times reading it. And what she's talking about is solidarity, and talking about exactly, what Prema is saying. And how in reading this, though, I had such a revelation about how what we're doing with the Tara Dance Circle is so important on the planet right now. When we come together and dance together and see each other as Tara, that's one of the most powerful things that we can be doing in our lives. Love you all. Thank you all. Thank you, Prema.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you. Well, then I want to take this moment to thank Miri and Parvati and Carrie and Adrienne and Noel and all of those who are still maintaining the circles of Tara. I saw that Miri just sent out an announcement to let you know how many opportunities you have in the course of the month to come together in this format to sing and dance in the spirit of Tara and Awakened Mind. So I really thank you all so much for carrying the torch. It's so very exciting to me to have that all going on. I can't believe it. It's wonderful because I'm spending a lot of time resting. It is so exciting for me I don't have to travel. I don't have to get ready to travel. I don't have to recover from traveling. I don't even have to go down the mountain to be with my buddies because we can't do that now with social distancing on Maui. So I get to stay home. It's a miracle. And you're carrying the torch. I just love it. I'm so grateful. I'm so, so grateful. Okay, so it looks to me, I don't see any more questions. So I would just like to say a little prayer here, if you wouldn't mind. Mother Tara and all of our radiant sources of refuge, I'm so grateful for your support, for your inspiration, for your joy, for your teachings, for your guidance. And I ask with absolute sincerity to please continue to open the path to us. Continue to show us the way. Continue to help us to keep our hearts open to each other and to the world. Let us bring whatever we can to the world. So whoever is, do you have that, Josh? Thanks. And Mother, we take every moment, every single moment, and we offer it before the feet of the divine, asking that the whole world may be blessed with our joy and our peace, our wisdom, and our radiance. Om with great gratitude, with great gratitude. Okay, darlings, well, I'm going to check out and you can chat with each other. Bye.